heaven. And so 18:1, they come to Jesus, and on this occasion, they ask him, who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? And so when these guys ask this question, they're wanting a name. They're wanting like Peter, James, and John. I mean, we want to know which one of us is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. We don't want a category. We don't want a hypothetical. We don't want a potential kind of concept or construct. We want to know who is the greatest. And so Jesus did an interesting thing in verse 2. Look at what he does there, 18:2. He calls a little child and puts the little child in the midst of them. So there's a big crowd of people gathered around to hear Jesus teach, including the 12 disciples. And he says, hey, you little boy, yeah, come on over here. And he brings the little boy and stands the kid right in the middle of everybody else, to which the 12 disciples are like, hold it, hello, we just asked a question. Like, we just asked a question. It's an important question. I mean, I have a real thing I want to ask you, and you just kind of like aren't answering. You're like bringing this kid in the middle. Little kid will be with you in just a minute. But right now, the 12 need to ask a question. And so it's very interesting what happens then, and you have to understand, they had a legitimate question. Just like some of you have a legitimate question. You have a legitimate concern. You have a legitimate obstacle. And just like these guys did, but look at where Jesus goes in verse 3. He goes to the heart of the matter. He says this, hey, unless you change, and these 12 guys are like, okay, change, what do you want us to do? Jump higher, do more religious stuff? I mean, follow you more, see you do more miracles? I mean, what do you need us to do? We want to do more. We want to be more. What do you want us to do? We want to be more obedient. We want to be more loyal. He says, no. Unless you change to become like a little child, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. To which they were like, whoa, enter the kingdom of heaven. I thought we were like already there. We're just asking like, who's the greatest? Not entering. And then, because the thing that he was trying to explain is this: you don't come to God on my terms, on our terms. You come to God on the terms of what he says and what he wants. And then he gives the application in verse 4. And it's taking the trust, the simple belief, the simple trust that Abraham had, and connecting it with something else that Jesus is saying in this passage. And you get the real terms of how people can have a relationship with God. You get the real terms of engagement. You understand what God wants from us. Verse 4. Look at what he says. Therefore, whoever takes the lowly position, i.e., humbles himself like this little child, is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. And so let me just kind of push back for a second on some of your questions. I want to push back for a second on some of your concerns, on some of your obstacles, on some of the things that you want to understand from God before coming a Christian. Here's the deal. Some of us, when we have our imaginary conversations with God, and when we have our imagination set on these bargaining sessions where, God, I'm going to do something for you and you're going to do something for me. When we come to God and we kind of have those imaginary conversations, there's this tinge. And if we peel it back, it's more and more pronounced. But there's a tinge of pride. There's a tinge of pride that says, I'm in control, not you, God. I'm going to do it my way, not you. Because here's what happens. The two things that we have to be to come to God: somebody who's maybe never been a Christian that's seeking, somebody who's unconvinced, that's kind of at the edge, those of us who have questions and have concerns. You know, when we come to God, we have to have two things: trust like Abraham did, and humility like a little child.